There was a man who spent more than 20 years sitting on cold sidewalks, collecting discarded cans, eating from shelters, and sleeping wherever he could find a quiet corner. Thousands of people walked past him. Some felt sorry for him. Some ignored him. Others assumed he had nothing. But when he died, investigators opened a small box hidden among his belongings and discovered something that made headlines around the world. The man everyone believed was a beggar had quietly built a fortune worth millions. And the most shocking part was not how much money he had. It was why he chose to live that way. For decades, he carried a secret that nobody around him ever suspected. Shop owners saw him every day. Bus drivers recognized his face. Neighbors watched him push the same worn-out cart through the same streets year after year. Yet not one of them knew the truth. The mystery would only begin after his death. Because once officials started examining his life, they uncovered a trail of investments, bank accounts, handwritten records, and decisions that raised a question no one could answer. Why would a wealthy man choose a life of poverty? And what was he hiding from? Before we go deeper into this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. At first glance, this story sounds impossible. Most people spend their lives trying to escape hardship. They work longer hours, chase promotions, build businesses, and save every dollar in the hope that one day they can enjoy comfort and security. This man did the exact opposite. He had the money. He simply refused to use it. Imagine walking past someone every day for 20 years and believing you knew exactly who they were. Now imagine discovering that everything you believed was wrong. That is exactly what happened in a quiet American city where a man we will call Daniel Harper became something of a local fixture. Residents knew him as the homeless man with the gray jacket. Children grew up seeing him near the same intersections. Restaurant workers occasionally offered him leftover food. Some people handed him a few dollars when they could. Daniel rarely spoke about himself. He never asked for attention. He never told stories about his past. And he certainly never mentioned the fortune quietly growing in his name. What nobody knew was that while most people spent their evenings watching television, Daniel spent hours studying financial newspapers. While others dismissed him as another man struggling to survive, he was tracking stock prices, reading market reports, and making investment decisions that would eventually leave financial professionals stunned. Yet even that is only part of the story. Because Daniel had not always lived this way. Years earlier, he had dreams just like everyone else. He had a family. He had opportunities. He had a future that seemed completely ordinary. Then something happened. A series of choices, disappointments, and private battles slowly transformed him into a man who no longer trusted the world around him. People who later investigated his life would discover clues scattered across decades. Small moments that seemed insignificant at first. Conversations nobody remembered. Decisions that only made sense after the full picture emerged. The deeper they looked, the stranger the story became. Some believed Daniel was trying to prove a point about society. Others believed he was haunted by something from his past. A few thought he had simply lost faith in the value of money itself. But none of those explanations fully answer the question. Because if he truly wanted nothing to do with wealth, why did he continue growing it? Why spend decades building a fortune that he never intended to enjoy? And why keep it hidden from everyone around him? As reporters began digging through public records and speaking with people who knew him, they discovered a life filled with contradictions. He dressed like a man with nothing, yet he thought like a successful investor. He lived like someone abandoned by society. Yet he possessed more financial discipline than many wealthy executives. The closer they got to the truth, the more unbelievable the story became. And then came the discovery that changed everything. A discovery that would force an entire community to reevaluate the man they thought they knew. Because hidden behind the image of a forgotten beggar was a secret so unexpected that even seasoned investigators struggled to believe it. What they found would reveal not only how Daniel became wealthy, but also the heartbreaking reason he chose to remain invisible for the rest of his life. And that reason begins many years earlier, long before anyone knew the name Daniel Harper. Daniel Harper was not born into wealth. He came into the world in a modest neighborhood outside Cleveland, Ohio, during a time when most families measured success by stability rather than luxury. His father worked long shifts repairing industrial machinery, while his mother spent years balancing part-time jobs and raising 3 children. Money was rarely abundant, but there was always enough to keep food on the table. From an early age, Daniel developed habits that set him apart from other children. While his friends spent their allowance as quickly as they received it, Daniel saved nearly every dollar. Teachers remembered him as quiet, observant, and unusually patient. He paid attention to details that others overlooked. When he was 12 years old, he became fascinated by newspaper business sections. Most children his age could not have cared less about stock prices or company earnings reports, but Daniel studied them with genuine interest. Nobody imagined that this habit would shape the rest of his life. As Daniel entered adulthood, he built what appeared to be an ordinary life. He attended community college, found steady employment, and eventually married a woman named Rebecca. Together, they purchased a small home and welcomed a daughter. Friends described them as hardworking people trying to build a future. Yet beneath the surface, Daniel maintained the same disciplined approach to money that had defined him since childhood. Every extra dollar was invested. Every unnecessary expense was avoided. Over time, his modest investments began producing returns. Then those returns generated even more returns. What started as a small portfolio gradually expanded into something much larger. Daniel never chased luxury. He never bought expensive cars. He never sought recognition. While many people measured success through visible signs of wealth, Daniel remained focused on quiet accumulation. Years passed, and his financial position grew stronger. By his early 40s, he had achieved a level of security that many people spend their entire lives pursuing. Then tragedy entered his life without warning. Rebecca became seriously ill. The diagnosis arrived suddenly and transformed everything. Hospital visits replaced family vacations. Medical treatments replaced future plans. Daniel spent countless hours beside her bed, hoping for a recovery that never came. When Rebecca passed away, something inside him changed. Friends noticed it immediately. The ambitious man who once discussed goals and plans became distant. Social gatherings grew rare. Phone calls went unanswered. He continued working and investing, but the enthusiasm that had once fueled his life seemed gone. Losing Rebecca did more than break his heart. It altered his understanding of what wealth could actually accomplish. Despite all the money he had saved, he could not change the outcome. Despite all his planning, he could not protect the person he loved most. The experience left a mark that never fully healed. Over the following years, Daniel became increasingly withdrawn. His daughter eventually moved away to pursue her own career, and while they remained in contact, the closeness they once shared slowly faded. Daniel's house became quieter. His routines became simpler. He spent evenings reading financial reports and reflecting on questions that few people around him understood. During this period, he began volunteering at shelters and community centers. There he encountered people whose lives had been shaped by circumstances far different from his own. Some struggled with addiction. Others faced mental illness, unemployment, or family breakdowns. Daniel listened to their stories. He observed how strangers treated them. He noticed how quickly society dismissed people who appeared poor. The more time he spent among them, the more unsettled he became. He began wondering whether people's worth was judged primarily by appearances. It was a question that would eventually lead him toward a decision few could comprehend. At first, the change was subtle. Daniel sold unnecessary possessions. He reduced his spending even further. Then he moved out of his house and into a small apartment. Friends assumed he was simplifying his life. What they did not realize was that Daniel was conducting a personal experiment. He wanted to know how the world responded to someone who appeared to have nothing. Over time, the experiment expanded. He abandoned the apartment. He dressed in worn clothing. He stopped explaining himself to others. Eventually, he was living on the streets, even though his investments continued generating substantial wealth. The transformation shocked the few people who knew him. Some tried to help. Others believed grief had damaged his mental health. Daniel refused to provide explanations. He simply continued living according to his new reality. Years turned into decades. During that time, his fortune continued growing. Investments purchased years earlier increased dramatically in value. Dividends accumulated. Real estate holdings appreciated. Through careful management and remarkable patience, Daniel's wealth expanded into the millions. Yet his lifestyle remained unchanged. Every morning, people saw the same man pushing a cart through city streets. Every afternoon, he sat on familiar benches reading old newspapers. Every winter, shelter workers worried about his safety. Few understood that the man they considered homeless possessed greater financial security than many of the city's most successful professionals. As time passed, Daniel became something of a local mystery. People created stories about him. Some claimed he had once been a professor. Others believed he came from a wealthy family. A few insisted he had lost everything in a business collapse. None of these theories captured the truth. Daniel rarely corrected anyone. He seemed content, allowing people to believe whatever they wished. What mattered to him was observation. Day after day, year after year, he watched how individuals treated one another. He noticed acts of kindness performed by people with very little. He noticed indifference displayed by people with great abundance. These observations filled journals that he carefully maintained throughout his later life. One winter evening, Daniel collapsed near a public library. Emergency responders transported him to a hospital where doctors discovered his health had deteriorated significantly. Despite medical efforts, he passed away several weeks later. At first, his death attracted little attention. He appeared to be another elderly homeless man whose life would soon be forgotten. Then officials began sorting through his belongings. Among them was a small key. The key led to a storage unit. Inside the unit were boxes containing financial records, investment statements, journals, and legal documents. Investigators initially assumed they belonged to someone else. The numbers seemed impossible, but as the evidence accumulated, a remarkable picture emerged. Daniel Harper had died with assets worth millions of dollars. The revelation spread rapidly. Local newspapers published headlines. National media outlets picked up the story. Television programs debated his motives. Financial experts examined his investment history with amazement. Ordinary people struggled to understand why someone with such resources would choose a life of apparent poverty. Yet the greatest surprise was still waiting inside the journals Daniel had left behind. Those journals revealed that his decision had never been about money. It had never been about proving a financial theory or hiding from a world. Daniel wrote extensively about grief, loneliness, and human behavior. He described how Rebecca's death forced him to question assumptions he had carried throughout his life. He explained that after losing the person he loved most, wealth no longer represented success. Instead, he became interested in understanding character. He wanted to know how people behaved when there was nothing to gain. He wanted to discover whether compassion survived in a society obsessed with status and appearances. Page after page documented encounters with strangers. Some offered food despite having little themselves. Others shared blankets during cold nights. A waitress regularly provided coffee without expecting payment. A retired veteran checked on him during storms. These individuals appeared repeatedly throughout his writings. Daniel viewed them as examples of humanity at its best. He contrasted their actions with those of people who ignored suffering while enjoying extraordinary privilege. The journals did not express bitterness. Instead, they reflected curiosity and reflection. Daniel seemed less interested in judging people than in understanding them. Then came the final surprise. Included among the documents was a detailed estate plan. Daniel had spent years preparing it. The majority of his fortune was designated for shelters, food programs, educational scholarships, and organizations assisting struggling families. Several individuals who had shown him kindness over the years received unexpected gifts. The waitress received enough money to retire comfortably. The veteran's grandchildren received college funds. Shelter workers who had treated him with dignity were remembered as well. Daniel had quietly taken note of every meaningful act of compassion. When the details became public, reactions were powerful. Some people called him eccentric. Others viewed him as a philosopher who had spent decades conducting a profound social experiment. Many simply found the story heartbreaking. The image of a man carrying immense wealth while living among society's most vulnerable challenged assumptions about success, happiness, and value. Communities discussed his legacy for years. Books were written. Documentaries were produced. Yet even after all the analysis and speculation, one aspect of Daniel's life remained deeply personal. He never seemed motivated by recognition. He could have revealed the truth at any moment. He could have enjoyed public admiration and comfort. Instead, he chose anonymity. Perhaps that is why his story continues to resonate. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. How often do we judge people based on appearances? How many stories do we miss because we never take time to listen? How many individuals pass us every day carrying burdens, experiences, or secrets we cannot imagine? Daniel Harper spent decades hidden in plain sight. Thousands looked directly at him without seeing who he really was. They saw a beggar. They saw a homeless man. They saw someone with nothing. What they failed to see was a man who had already learned a lesson that many never discover. That a person's true worth cannot be measured by the clothes they wear, the car they drive, the house they own, or the balance of their bank account. And in the end, the millionaire beggar nobody recognized may have understood more about human nature than all the people who walked past him combined. So what do you think? If you had passed Daniel on the street, would you have stopped to help him? Or would you have walked by, assuming you already knew his story? Let us know in the comments below. And if this story made you think differently about the people you encounter every day, don't forget to subscribe for more remarkable true stories that reveal the hidden side of human life.